I asked Zafang if I could make this video, and he gave me his blessing. So we're doing it. Today, we are specializing. Amia, can you take these papers to Kaltit's office? I can't move from my chair because I don't have any legs. Amia? Amia? Where'd she go? You can't really compare specialist branches to each other because they're all unique. It's not like guards or snipers where some specialists have less range but do more damage, and because all the branches do different things, you have a lot of variety when doing specialist knights. In order to become the world's strongest specialist striker with the biggest ego, you need to actually know what the branches do. So first up, merchants. Merchants are your Lees, Mr. Nothings, Jays, and Swire Alters when she eventually comes to global, and while everyone knows Jay is goated, the other three are strong in their own ways. Merchants have a low DP cost, but when they're on the field, drain 3 DP every 3 seconds. They have the stats to survive by themselves, but if you try retreating them, you won't get any DP refunded. Their redeployment time is also less than half of a regular operator's redeployment time, which makes them useful for tackling other parts of the map. All their skills also have a super low SP cost, complementing their hella drop ability. Executors have mostly been reduced to the top 2 6 stars doing makeout sessions, but they're all still somewhat useful. Except for Phantom, he's been power crept, and there's no coming back from it. You know these operators: Texalt, Yatawalt, Catman 2, Project Red, Gravel, and Waifu. I almost forgot about her. Executors have a super short redeployment time of only 16 seconds with the redeployment pot. Speaking of potentials, they're really important on these operators because you're going to be spamming them, so saving DP and redeployment time are pretty big. Their stats aren't that great by themselves, but with their passive skills up, this branch can take down elites, take range shots, or provide crowd control. Executors are the main lifeline of E0 and Specialist Knights because of all the fast redeploy stalling these two categories do. Trap Masters are basically anti-air snipers, but instead of getting their damage from skill attacks, whenever their skill charges, it gives you a placeable mine. Mines can only be placed on open melee tiles and can't be directly slapped onto an enemy. The operators in this branch are Frost from the R6 collab, who is practically useless, Robin, who has some decent function, and Dorothy, who power crept both of them. There's a lot of emphasis on the mines with their utility and global placement, but Trap Masters themselves have pretty good DPS with their auto attacks, being able to handle low and mid defense enemies. This allows you to focus the traps on the big guys or big hordes that the operators can't handle alone. Dollkeepers are mainly dominated by Spectre Alter, but Kazumaru is still very strong damage wise and has a decent burst up her sleeve, while Benna comes with an innate 50% damage reduction on her doll with mod, letting her tank stuff like max risk phase 2 Manfred on CC10. For some reason, Dollkeepers also has a fast redeploy tag, even though you sit them down in a specific area and they just refuse to die and be redeployed. If the operator form of a Dollkeeper dies, they'll switch to their substitute for 20 seconds. If the doll dies within those 20 seconds, the operator gets put on redeployment cooldown, but if the doll doesn't die within those 20 seconds, the operator form comes back. When transitioning to the substitute form and vice versa, there's a brief moment where the operator has iframes, which is super abusable for niche clears. You kinda just set these operators down by themselves and let them do their own thing, and in some cases, the substitute coming out might be more useful to you than the operator themselves. You really shouldn't be worried about these operators dying, since the only way the enemy can actually kill the substitute is through ranged attacks, since the substitute has 0 block, or an unlucky melee attack with an extremely long wind up as the operator is transitioning. Hey Kobe, hey Saga, have you seen Amia? She's usually in the office before me, but for some reason she's not here today. I mean, I checked everywhere on the land ship for her, but I couldn't find her. Saga sensed a dangerous presence coming from Amiya's room? Oh shoot, I better get there quick. Ambushers like Mizuki Kirara? I don't know. Ethan and Manticore have 0 block, but a pretty expansive range. They hit all enemies in their attack range with a slow attack interval. The combination of these two characteristics allows you to set up ambushers at the front of intersections where all the enemies are funneling in. All ambushers are pretty squishy HP wise, but their trait allows them to have a coin flip's chance to dodge physical and arts damage. They also come with decreased taunt and 30 arts resistance, making them pretty durable against arts damage for some reason. Ethan and Manticore have really strong crowd control, while Kirara is really good at being trash. Mizuki has a good mix of crowd control and damage in his kit. The next two branches I'm gonna group together as shifters, which contain both pullers and pushers that I will not refer to them by their actual official branch names. Pullers pull, pushers push. It sounds like two very simple branches, but once you go down the rabbit hole that's shifting, you start to realize that the skill ceiling of using these operators is deceivingly high. These operators are able to move around enemies with their skills, and when the game was just released, when skill issue of the player base was at its highest, people only thought about using these operators if there was a visible, obvious hole on the map. Nowadays, shifting is regarded as one of the ultimate strategies, not only infinitely cycling shoving enemies across the map, but also shenanigans like attack cancel. The operators everyone loves to focus on in these branches are obviously the 6 stars, Weedy and Gladia. However, there are notable 5 stars like Feeder and Cliffheart that fill the shifter role very solidly. Shifting is one of the more complicated mechanics in the game because of its application, like calculating proper infinite cycles with enemy movement speed, combining forces, hit scan, and determining the right frames to activate a skill to maximize its damage. While I am aware of all these fine details, I am not the shift master, so I'm not gonna bother trying to explain something that I don't have much experience in, but just know that clears with these operators can get very complicated very fast. The last specialist archetype are Geeks. Not a very good name, but oh well. Ak is the only member of this branch in Global, but when Sparingly gets released, he'll have a buddy to shoot people in the head with. In-game. Just like me, these operators hit existing and lose 3% of their HP over time. You need healing sources if you want to keep them on the map for longer than 33 seconds. This branch offers buffs to your operators in exchange for a condition. For Ak, he gets a Glock in his Rari to shoot 15 shots of 500 physical damage, making it not very ranged unit friendly. Sparingly has 2 conditions to her buff. One is that it only affects snipers, and the second is that every attack the operator does has a chance to self-stun, which can decrease DPS by a lot if your RNG seed hates you. Both these ops can actually do some pretty decent damage, especially because their buffs also apply to themselves. Anyways, that's about the general summary for all the specialist branches. See ya. What am I looking at? You're just lying in bed. I don't see how that's meditating. Also, you didn't come into the office today. The big Fumo is telling you something? What? I don't hear anything.